Alrighty. My name is Seri Dukart. I own Gallery Gecko. That's Seri, by the way, not Siri. And I own Gallery Gecko and Creature Care Cards. I'm going to be talking about the familial behavior of the Tokay Gecko. I suppose I should probably do this part too.
Down arrow.
I know, but I thought, had it upside down. Alright, I got my first Tokay Gecko in 2010 from Kita of Spine Scale. She's here with us today. At that time, captive bred Tokays were fairly hard to find in the hobby. Most of the time you go to shows and you would find wild-caught specimens that were sickly, they were just not thriving, and they didn't thrive too well as pets either. The first one I got was a wild-caught, didn't do very well. I ended up getting a captive bred from Kita, and I fell in love with the species then. The one gecko that I do have is Georgia. She's in my hands here. She's super, super tame. I can hand her to anybody in this room, and she would just chill. She's been a very tame gecko. I do have her here with me today, so if anybody wants to have an experience afterwards with handling a Tokay gecko that's not going to bite you, you can come find me. I ended up wanting to work with the species and lessen the amount of wild-caught that were in the hobby and have more captive-bred examples out there so that more people could experience how amazing these geckos are. I do focus more so on the behavior of the gecko than I do the genetics. Not to say that I don't, keep really good track of my genetics and everything, but I'm really interested in the behaviors of them. This is Georgia here. She's just super chill. Anybody can touch her, and I just let her chill on me. After when she wants to walk away from me, she can. And that's not what you're usually going to get when you get a Tokay gecko. So don't come by my Tokay geckos and expect that, because that's not what you're going to get. Gotta do some work. And do just a quick look at the Tokay gecko for those of you that may not know much about them. They come from Southeast Asia and Pacific Islands. They're a tropical, nocturnal, and arboreal gecko. They do eat insects. They do need a heat source in captivity. Basking in UV is very important for these guys, so it's not like a crested gecko. They do need heat. And they're also invasive in Florida. They are a rather large gecko. They get up to about 10 to 12 inches average. They come in many morphs. You're seeing more and more of the morphs in the hobby now as more people understand their genetics. And they do regenerate their tails if they drop them with full use of the tail when it grows back. They are known for their attitudes. I'm sure most of the time when you hear Tokay gecko, you hear some other, curse words around with it. And the thing about this is they yell at you when you go away and it works. And this is kind of an example of their intelligence. They are one of the few geckos that raises and protects their family fiercely. You will see some gecko species that will tolerate their young. I have a pair of standing day geckos, and their babies will hatch in the enclosure with them, and they'll tolerate them, but they don't protect them, they don't incubate the eggs, they just simply tolerate their young. That would be kind of me as a parent. So, but the Tokays really do fiercely protect their family. Their name comes from their call. I don't know if everybody's heard a Tokay call, but they're very loud. And they can be heard for long distances. So if you live in an apartment building, this is really probably not the gecko for you either. If you live somewhere you're not supposed to have geckos, probably shouldn't hide one of these. Great for, haunted houses, great for if you have your own house, not so much for apartments. All right, if you can't tell from my accent and my dog, I'm deaf. I have cochlear implants in both ears, and but I spent the large majority of my life just completely deaf, and he just decided to come and show himself. I spent a large part of my life just reading lips. And so I focus very heavily on everything that I interact with on body language, which is very, very important with Tokay geckos. They are a very vocal gecko. They do, have a lot of different vocalizations other than just their call. They chirp. They just have a lot of vocalizations. But they also have a lot of body postures and body language that really is important too. They gape, as you can see. Just the color changes as they're firing up and down. Their tail movements are very important. They use their vocalizations to deter predators, to find mates, and to communicate with each other. This, being deaf has helped me as a dog groomer. I'm a dog groomer, and it helps me avoid getting bit because I'm focusing on body language as I'm working with dogs and not necessarily the growls or the things that I can't hear. This works really well with the Tokays too, because vocal warnings are the last thing an animal will give you before it's gonna bite you. There's a lot of body language leading up to that before you get bit. So if you don't pay attention to that, the chances are by the time they're vocalizing at you, they're hanging off your finger. So. Talking about understanding the Tokay. So they're very intelligent. They use their defensiveness to deter predators, and that includes you. Taming is different than building Taming is different than building trust with these guys. When you are handling a crested gecko or a leopard gecko that hasn't been handled before, you just handle it a lot every couple of days, and it's going to get tamer. That does not work with the Tokay gecko if you don't handle them properly. And you can handle a Tokay every day for a month, and it's going to be just as aggressive on day 30 as it is on day 1, just because you're not earning their trust and you're not respecting them. And so I prefer to observe my Tokays. I do have one that I said is tame. I don't even handle her very often. A couple times a year I take her out. I like to observe them. So if you're going to get a Tokay intending to have a pet that you're going to handle and get your kids to handle and stuff, this is probably not the gecko for you. If you want a gecko that you're going to observe and you're going to enjoy just learning about them and how they interact with each other, interact with you, Tokays are amazing. Out of the 80 plus Tokays I have, there's only one that I regularly handle, and that's even not that often either. I just really enjoy watching the videos. When you're handling Tokays, the biggest thing is to not grip them or hold on to them. They're going to see that as predatory action, and they're not going to react well. So this gecko right here, it looks like I have my fingers around his neck like that, so that he cannot turn his head either side and grab onto me. But the rest of my body language there is really relaxed and just not gripping the gecko. If he does start to move away, I just let him. I don't grab and grip, or you're going to get bit. They do have an incredible bite force. Once they latch onto you, it can be a while, and before they let go. And it's kind of a funny story. Before I came here, when I was packing up Tokays for this show, I was going to talk about how most of the time if you have a gecko, a Tokay bites you, and all you have to do is put your hand in the cage, relax your hand, not look at them, look away, relax, let them go, and they're going to let go. I have a big scar on my hand now from a gecko that hung on to me for 38 minutes and would not let go. So your mileage may vary with that method, but most of the time that does work. If you are relaxed and you're not trying to force them off or pull them off or force their mouths open or something, they're going to let go of you, but not always. There is some question as to whether once they lock onto you and lock their jaw, as if they're physically capable of unlocking their jaw quickly, which is maybe why they do stay hanging on for as long as they do at times, because I don't think they can necessarily just unlock their jaw that fast. So, let's see. Building trust methods here, this is kind of like the trust fall thing that we talk about sometimes. No pain, no gain. Cup or tongue feeding. This is one of my males. I don't ever interact with him, but he sees me coming with a red solo cup, and he's at the door and he's waiting. And so I do this with a lot of my Tokays. I always feed the same cup, the same color cup, and they see that cup and they're going to come out. So tongue feeding and cup feeding is a great way to earn their trust, so that you can visually see them when they're out and about and instead of hiding every time they see you. I do also recommend to people if you're going to handle your Tokays, I don't know if you've ever seen them, but there's like a mosquito net tent that you can use when you're outdoors camping, and you put it over your sleeping bag and it's just like this enclosed tent, just mesh netting. And I sit in there with my babies and I just let them crawl on me, because then if they're gonna try to bolt away, I'm not gonna grab them and get nervous about them running away and trying to catch them. I'm relaxed because your body language means as much to them as them should to you. And so I do that when I'm handling my Tokays, even when I'm taking pictures, because then I'm not worried about where they're going. And I suggest it to all my customers, and they have had good luck with it. So that's one trust building way. And one of the hardest things is when you're handling them to let them bite you. If you jerk away, they're gonna bite with more force. And most of the time, if you just relax and let them bite you, they're gonna bite and they're gonna just let go and be like, oh, well, crap, that didn't work, so, you know. So it is hard to do that, but it does work. Talking about pairing, they're very, very territorial, Gecko. I never put the males in, or the females into the male's cage, because the males are extremely territorial. So I will always put males into the female's cage. I rearrange the cage a little bit, and I just always put the males in with the females. The pairs are best with this species. Trios will work until they start laying eggs, and then you have the movie Mean Girls all over again, where they're just picking on each other, and they'll eat each other's babies, they will eat each other's eggs. It's not pretty. So pairs are best. When you do take a male, put it with another female, it's best to give them a break between this time. They do bond very, strongly with their mates, and so rather than just shoving him with another female, if you do that right away, you're going to cause territorial issues all over again. He needs some time to kind of forget about, his last girlfriend, and I need more. So, give him some time. The boys make absolutely fantastic mates. They can remain with their family, they can remain with the eggs, they can remain with the babies, and they will not harm them once they bond with their female. You know that you have a bonded pair when you have geckos and tubes together like this, and once they're in the same hiding spot together, you know you have a bonded pair. When I put them together at first, I spend a little bit of time watching to see how they're interacting with each other. If they're harming, hurting each other, if there's any blood involved, I'll separate them. But once you see them in the same height together, you're good. I do keep my males with my females for quite a long time. It's not like with some geckos where you just pair them and separate them. I just keep an eye on the females for any health decline, keep an eye on their weight. I have UVB and calcium and powder free available in the cage for all my females, and year round. And so they do stay together for quite some time, and I just separate them when needed.